Get out!
From YouTube fame to prison time, Ruby Franke's story is a chilling cautionary tale of a once beloved mommy vlogger who's now serving up to 30 years in prison for child abuse. So how did her family's online life spiral into a nightmare of control, faith, and unimaginable cruelty? Let's dive into the shocking details from the latest Hulu documentary, Devil in the Family: The Fall of Ruby Franke. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. The three-part Hulu documentary, Devil in the Family: The Fall of Ruby Franke, has just absolutely gripped audiences with its harrowing exploration of how a once-beloved YouTube mommy vlogger became a convicted child abuser. And the series, directed by Ollie Lambert and produced by Passion Pictures, really delves into the shocking details of Ruby Franke and her descent from internet fame to infamy, revealing a story of control, faith, the dark side of life lived online. And we're going to recap some of the most disturbing details of this documentary as we try to understand more about this story, about more how this could have happened. So Ruby Franke, the former face of the popular YouTube channel 8 Passengers, was arrested in August of 2023 alongside her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt, a therapist, a life coach, and they both later pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse for the mistreatment of 2 of Franke's children. And Franke and Hildebrandt, they were sentenced last year to 4 consecutive terms of 1 to 15 years in prison.
For the past 4 years, I've chosen to follow counsel and guidance that has led me into a dark delusion. My distorted version of reality went largely unchecked as I would isolate from anyone who challenged me. I was led to believe that this world was an evil place, filled with cops who control, hospitals that injure, government agencies that brainwash, church leaders who lie and lust, husbands who refuse to protect, and children who need abused. My choice to believe and behave this paranoia culminated into criminal activity for which I stand before you today ready to take accountability. With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
Now, this documentary, which premiered on February 27th, features never-before-seen footage from the Franke family's YouTube channel, as well as interviews with Franke's estranged husband, Kevin, and 2 of her eldest children, Shari and Chad. And we're going to take a deep dive into the most shocking details from this documentary, and there is quite a lot. So it's split up into 3 episodes: abundance, distortion, and truth. And of course, we know that those are terms that were apparently used by Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke in their teachings and their understandings and their practices. Now, in the first episode, we're immediately greeted with the horrifying reality of the abuse that was going on up until this point behind closed doors. The episode opens with chilling Ring camera footage of Ruby's 12-year-old son escaping from Jodi Hildebrandt's home. And we know that that child, who was emaciated, had apparently restraints, duct tape around his ankles, approached one of Hildebrandt's neighbors, asked for help, and that neighbor ultimately ended up calling 911.
This kid has obviously been, I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds. We need the cops here as soon as possible.
Does have duct tape around each ankle. He's not telling the RP why, and said that there's sores around his wrists and ankles. The RP is becoming emotional regarding the child's health.
Anytime you hear it, it is just always chilling. And that moment set the stage for the harrowing story that unfolds. The documentary then cuts to Jodi Hildebrandt being arrested, with both Ruby and Jodi charged with 6 counts of felony child abuse. And then we had Ruby's journal entries, which were read aloud, and they reveal her belief that her 2 youngest children were demons and devil-possessed, insisting they must repent. But how did we get to that? Well, Kevin Franke, Ruby's estranged husband, provides a lot of that backstory. He describes their family as once being perfect and idyllic, But they all went down the drain when Ruby decided to seek out something greater than that and made it her personal mission to showcase her parenting and her family to the entire world. And so thus, the now defunct Channel 8 Passengers was born. And just as an interesting aside to all of this, some members of the Latter-day Saints, particularly families, they view their online presence in vlogging as a form of missionary work. That's what's been reported. And Kevin even touches on that in the documentary, this idea that sharing your faith and your lifestyle can help inspire others. And that's totally fair and understandable, but it's this that took an entirely different turn. And this whole influencer lifestyle in some way can mean doing business with God even. Now, that might all be well and good. Of course, this is a story that took a very dark turn. And of course, we know that the Franke case has brought a lot of attention to the ethical issues surrounding family vlogging. And that is particularly true when one of Ruby's children, Shari, who we've talked about in many previous episodes of Sidebar, testified in front of Utah lawmakers earlier this year on the dangers of this trend, pushing for laws that would protect children.
In any other context, it is understood that children cannot give consent. But for some reason, people think family vlogging is different. I did not realize the impact that filming as a child would have on me now. My social media became flooded with rumors of having sexual relations with my own brother, to being called a baby birthing machine at the age of 13. All these things have stuck with me, and I will forever live between the ages of 13 to 17 in many of my viewers' minds. In addition, pedophiles stalk the internet, specifically seeking out child influencers. I promise you that the parents are aware of these predators and choose to post their children anyway. I want to be absolutely clear that there is no amount of money that can justify selling your soul as a child to the world. In no other industry would we justify unregulated child labor with a huge paycheck, and we should not do that here. If I could go back and do it all again, I'd rather have an empty bank account now and not have my childhood plastered all over the internet. No amount of money I received has made what I've experienced worth it. Family vlogging ruined my innocence long before Ruby committed a crime. I promise you that my experiences are not unique and are happening to child influencers all over Utah and the country. So let's tackle this issue before it becomes a bigger crisis than it already is.
And so the documentary reveals this darker side, where perfection is strived for and family vlogging is seen as a form of missionary work. And in the case of the Franke family, their YouTube journey began seemingly around that concept. Their YouTube journey began back in 2015 with a viral video titled "Baby Crawls Out of the Crib." And that is when things just exploded for them. Maybe even a little too quickly. Get this, according to Kevin Franke, their first paycheck was just $85, but that quickly grew to exorbitant amounts of money. $2,000, $8,000, $20,000 per month. And at the family's peak, they were bringing in a whopping $100,000 per month. That's according to Kevin. So it's really no surprise that Ruby seemingly became totally addicted to this. And soon, the family's life really became something that, according to Shari Franke, resembled a performance more than it did real life, with their house feeling like a movie set. Shari, who's the eldest daughter, even recalled that the light bulbs were changed to a glaring bright white light to enhance the filming environment. Kevin admitted he was, quote, uncomfortable filming for the family's YouTube channel despite its massive success, saying, "She filmed everything, and I was so uncomfortable with it. When I came in the door, wherever Ruby was, the camera was. All of a sudden, it wasn't enough to just interact with her. I had to interact with the camera. She would pull it out, and she would say, 'Kevin, this camera has millions of people watching us.' She wanted me to be the perfect husband, the even-keeled but strong patriarch of the family. But I wasn't. I'm a nerd through and through." But behind the scenes, the pressure to maintain their online image, that took a toll. Ruby apparently became obsessed with controlling her children's behavior on camera because in one, what is again, chilling outtake, she snaps at her young daughter saying, "Just be yourself." And when the child responds, "That is myself," Ruby coldly replies, "Well, then change it." Now, Kevin even says at one point in regards to her parenting and the need for control, quote, "For Ruby, love is obedience, and the moment you disobey me, you're going to fear me." Now, Chad Franke, who's Ruby's eldest son, also makes an appearance in the documentary.
She just wanted to show the view of a Mormon happy family, but they only saw what we wanted to show them.
And this is big because you hadn't heard a lot from Chad Franke, and we did a whole separate deep dive onto him in a separate episode, so I definitely encourage everybody to go check it out. But it was big that he took the time to speak here. And going along with Ruby's whole obsessive control, Chad claims that he bore the brunt of her anger when he resisted filming, and there were severe consequences for this, that he was forced to sleep on a beanbag for months as a form of punishment and was even subjected to physical abuse. And in the documentary, he revealed she would spank, whip, take the belt out and whip my butt, pull down my pants, whip me. And in gruesome detail, Shari added that she once had to help her brother clean blood off the walls after a particularly brutal beating. Now, in the trailer to this, you can hear Kevin mention that the devil came knocking and the Frankes answered. And he was, of course, referring to Ruby's business partner, possibly, among other things, other titles, other relationships, Jody Hildebrand, this therapist, this life coach, who became a prominent figure in the Franke household. So much so that she ended up moving in. Apparently, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Jody convinced the Frankes that the world was ending, that they would need to stockpile supplies to survive. She claimed that she was haunted by, quote, hooded shadow figures, and she convinced Ruby and Kevin that she was, quote, called by God. And the Frankes had initially turned to this religious leader to help Chad navigate his difficult teen years when he was acting out or being rebellious. But she quickly became a prominent figure in this home, and that is when things apparently became very uncomfortable. According to Kevin, quote, after Jody came into the picture, weird things started happening in our house. Jody would go into these possessed trances, and she would start speaking in other voices. Ruby believed that it was meant to be, and me and her were meant to help Jody overcome this. But Shari was apparently the first to question Hildebrandt's influence, saying, I remember looking up Jody to see who she was, and I found out she was not a psychologist, even though she claimed to be one. From reviews online, I learned that she ruined families. She's not even married. Even her kids didn't talk to her. I remember thinking, why are we working with this woman? But apparently, when she went to her mom to voice her concerns, Ruby Franke, quote, didn't think anything of it. This is according to Chad. Now, there is footage of Hildebrandt's supposed satanic episodes that is shown in this documentary, with her sitting inside a small room with her head pressed up against a wall as her face writhes in agony. At one point, this therapist can be seen lying on the floor as she repeatedly hits her own chest, with Ruby Franke jumping in trying to stop her. Another clip shows Hildebrandt wearing a hooded jumper while sitting in the corner of a room with her head in her hands, whispering to herself, she's mine. That episode ends with Ruby's arrest, as police raid Jody's home, find Ruby's 10-year-old daughter hiding in a closet, her head shaved. A raid on the home uncovered a locked safe containing handcuffs, rope, bloody gauze, a mixture of cayenne pepper and honey that was used to treat the children's wounds. And then you have Ruby, who's seen in a police interview room, blankly staring out, refusing to speak without a lawyer. So now you move on to the second episode, Distortion. And this delves deeper into the Franke family's unraveling, opening with social media backlash against Ruby after that video showing Chad sleeping on a beanbag was revealed. You can see a snippet of that here.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on. And I was like, we're not going to Disneyland. And he started crying and hitting me. And then he went back to bed in tears. And then...
So that was not the reason you lost your room, but that was...
Well, the other reason is because I pointed a BB gun at his face.
Pointed a BB gun at his face and hung him on the basketball. It's not funny. Basically, Chad.
That was like the day I got home too.
Chad came home from Anasazi and
Like, I want to try dunking the basketball, and I lifted him up on the rim. And left him there for a solid 3 minutes, and he was just hanging on there.
Do you think it's funny? Because
and then I walk out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
No, it was not funny.
Chad showed that he was not able to manage himself sharing a bedroom with.
So when we moved, the bigger room in the basement was automatically his, and I didn't have a room, but we like put one on hold for me.
So a lot of you are like, hey, that's not fair because Chad got the lesser bedroom and got the bigger bedroom. Got the big bedroom and Chad got the smaller bedroom. And bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room.
And what's interesting about that is viewers were so horrified by that video that apparently the family's income plummeted, reportedly by 90%. Ruby didn't apologize for this, instead doubling down on her parenting methods and incorporating more religious content into her videos, shifting from a fun mom to a serious religious teacher. And then this is where Jodi Hildebrandt comes into the picture. Her apparent influence grew, and Ruby became increasingly obsessed with her teachings. And this is where things really got weird and uncomfortable when Hildebrandt moved into the Franke home, which forced Shari out of her own room. Now, Kevin described how Hildebrandt would, as I said, go into these trance-like states, speaking in other voices, how he and Ruby believed that they were helping her cast out evil spirits. And while we don't know the exact nature of their relationship, we do know things were a little maybe too close for comfort in the Franke household. Chad at one point recalled confessing to Ruby and Jodi about watching pornography and making out with girls, which led to Ruby kicking him out of the house. And Kevin said he was also banished, with Ruby allegedly accusing him of being selfish and lustful. Shari suspected that there was a more intimate relationship between her mother and Jodi Hildebrandt, and she cited the discovery of massage oils and melted candles in her former bedroom. And in our breakdown of Shari Franke's book, The House of My Mother, we took a closer look at this supposedly intimate relationship between these two, because in her book, Shari described one particular moment when she went into her room and was completely confused about what she saw. She wrote, quote, "The room was bathed in the soft glow of candles. The air was heavy with the scent of lavender and vanilla wafting from the massage oils on the dresser. I quickly grabbed what I needed and got the hell out of there, feeling like I had just walked into someone else's honeymoon suite. The only thing missing was rose petals on the bed." And Shari also wrote, quote, that the two women condemn queerness very publicly in their connections videos while embodying it privately. And Shari seems to believe that Ruby and Jodi were in fact lovers. And that is a sentiment that was echoed by Kevin, who described their relationship, quote, as uncomfortably intimate. And then we have the final episode, Truth. And that focuses on the aftermath of Ruby's arrest and the horrific abuse that was uncovered by authorities. And the episode opens with graphic descriptions of the injuries sustained by Ruby's son, who escaped Jodi's home. I mentioned what was found on him and the condition he was in. So he was 12 years old, and then again, Ruby's 10-year-old daughter, hiding in that closet, her head shaved, severely malnourished. Aside from the items that I mentioned before that were recovered, there were also Ruby's journal entries that we want to talk about, because they were read aloud in the documentary as well, and they reveal the extent of her abuse. She apparently wrote about forcing her son to stand in the sun, shaving her daughter's head, dousing her with water. One entry reads, "I will not feed a demon." Now, Kevin, who had been estranged from the family for over a year, again after being kicked out of the house, received a call from Ruby after her arrest, and she claimed the children were demonically possessed, begged Kevin to pick them up from the police station. And the episode ends with Ruby and Jodi pleading guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, again, both being sentenced up to 30 years in prison. It's going to be up to the Utah Board of Pardons and Paroles to determine when they actually get released. But following Ruby's arrest, Kevin filed for divorce in November of 2023, citing just the irreparable damage to their family. And yet, despite the abuse, despite all of this, Kevin expressed conflicted emotions, saying that he still loves Ruby, that he misses the life that they once shared, saying, "The actions that she did are atrocious, but I still feel a longing. I miss her. All of the delivery rooms, all of the moments holding our children. It's easy for the world to hate that woman. And so many people want me to join in the chorus. And I cannot turn off all of those other memories. And this is interesting because following Ruby's arrest in September, she called Kevin. This was, of course, prior to the divorce filing. And he seemed open to sticking by her. Take a listen.
I am committed to our family. I'm committed to you and our marriage, no matter what happens.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will be here to support you in any way that I can.
Well, thank you for stepping up.
Now, here's a big question. It's a big question that comes up anytime we talk about Kevin Franke. Did he truly not know what was going on? Did he not know what was happening with his kids? And if he did know, why didn't he do anything to stop it? Why wasn't he criminally charged, right? Well, Kevin explains that he really wasn't as involved as people think he was, because Ruby was able to conceal what was going on by exiling him and by telling him that he was infesting the family. Chad, who's now 20, believes that his mother should remain in prison until all his siblings reach adulthood. But he also admitted that he too misses her, or at least he misses the person she used to be, saying, "I miss a mother figure. I miss how she was when I was very young. But I think what she's going through is deserved. I don't think she should get out at least until the kids all turn 18. But that doesn't mean I don't have love for her." Shari, who's now 21, has a different perspective. She has become an advocate for stricter regulations on family vlogging, as we mentioned earlier, and she has vowed never to speak to her mother again. So Devil in the Family is more than a true crime documentary. It is a stark warning about the dangers of social media fame, the performance nature of online life. And I think that is the true value in this documentary. It's providing more answers to a story that, my gosh, we need more answers to try to understand what happened here. And as Kevin Franke told ABC News, there is real danger when you place yourself or your family, your children out onto public social media. There are real consequences associated with that. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.